Hey, you guys. All right, so our world right now is facing two kinds of pain. One is that pandemic that began in November, and the other is that pandemic that plagued us since the beginning of time. Systemic racism, you guys, is not a new concept. It has existed for thousands of years. And today we're not going to be talking about George Floyd and, the feelings of inequality there, but that death was the straw that broke the camel's back. The pain that people are feeling is a lifelong pain of inequality that they've experienced throughout history. And today, we're going to be taking a look at what is white privilege, how can whites better understand the real situation, and how does it affect our tutoring business. Now, many people have said to me, Joanne, you don't need to say anything about Black Lives Matter. And I began thinking, my goal in life is to help tutors build a successful tutoring business. And I feel that teachers have always been underpaid. And when teachers become tutors, they have the ability to make more money than they've ever made before. And my big cause in life is to get tutors to be paid what they're worth. But Ashley DiMercurio, one of the coaches on my team, she said, Joanne, equal rights is not a cause. It's a right, and there's a difference. And she was right. And that's why I've invited several other tutors with me today who are Black from all over the world to be with me. So keep listening to today's episode. All right, so I have a question for you guys out there in the audience. Has your tutoring business ever been affected because of the color of your skin? If yes, how? When I look at myself, you guys, I see a caring person that treats everyone with as much kindness as I would like to be treated. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. There were times when my dad would go on strike, get laid off, and my parents would struggle to pay the bills. And my parents, they both worked and they could get by. I had good grades, I studied hard, and for the most part, I stayed out of trouble. And I would look at myself today and I would say, I'm a good person. I went on to college, I became a teacher in a predominantly African American school taught by other white teachers. And for the first time, I began to feel like what it must be like for these kids. I took offense when a student of mine said, My mama told me I don't have to listen to no white teacher. I experienced culture shock. The way that these kids were raised was different than I was raised. They were more aggressive than anything I had experienced before. But it was a life skill that they were being taught so that they could survive. My lack of understanding was all part of my white privilege. I was reading an article by Peggy McIntosh, who was studying male privilege, and her eyes were opened up to white privilege that she was experiencing. And like Peggy, my schooling gave me no training in seeing myself as an oppressor, as an unfairly advantaged person, or as a participant in a damaged culture. I was taught to see myself as an individual whose moral state depended on her individual moral will. And I was reading her article. I identified with many of the privileges that I've never needed to address. And I'm going to share those ones with you, the ones that I connected with. I realized, I can, if I wish, arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time. I can avoid spending time with people whom I was trained to mistrust and who have learned to mistrust my kind or me. If I should need to move, I could be pretty sure of renting or purchasing housing in an area which I can afford and which I would want to live. I could be pretty sure that my neighbors in such a location will be neutral or pleasant to me. I can go shopping alone most of the time, pretty well assured that I will not be followed or harassed. I can turn on the television and I can see people of my race widely represented. When I'm told about my national heritage or about civilization, I'm shown that people of my color made it what it is. I can be sure that my children will be given curricular materials that testify to the existence of their race. I can be pretty sure of having my voice heard in a group in which I'm the only member of my race. I can be casual about whether or not to listen to another person's voice in a group in which he or she is the only member of his or her race. I can go to a music shop. I can go to a supermarket and I can find staple foods which fit my cultural traditions. I can go into a hairdresser shop and I can find someone who can cut my hair. Whether I use checks, credit cards, or cash, I can count on my skin color not to work against the appearance of financial reliability. I can arrange to protect my children for most of the time from people who might not like them. I do not have to educate my children to be aware of systemic racism for their daily physical protection. I can be pretty sure that my children's teachers and employers will tolerate them if they fit school and workplace norms. My chief worries about them do not concern others' attitudes toward their race. I can talk with my mouth full and not have people put this down to my color. I can do well in a challenging situation without being called a credit to my race. I'm never asked to speak for all the people of my racial group. I can remain oblivious of the language and customs of persons of color who constitute the world's majority without feeling in my culture any penalty for such oblivion. I can criticize our government and talk about how much I fear its policies and behavior without being seen as a cultural disorder or outsider. I can be pretty sure that if I ask to talk to the person in charge, I'm going to be facing somebody who is a person of my race. If a traffic cop pulls me over or the IRS audits me, I can be sure I haven't been singled out because of my race. I can easily buy posters, postcards, picture books, greeting cards, dolls, toys, children's magazines featuring people of my race. I can go home from most meetings of organizations that I belong to feeling somewhat tied in, rather than isolated, out of place, outnumbered, unheard, held at a distance, or feared. If I declare there's a racial issue at hand or there isn't a racial issue at hand, my race will lend me more credibility for either position than a person of color will have. My culture gives me little fear about ignoring the perspectives and powers of people of other races. I'm not made acutely aware that my shape, bearing, or body odor will be taken as a reflection on my race. I can worry about racism without being seen as self-interested or self-seeking. I can take a job with an affirmative action employer without having my coworkers on the job suspect that I got it because of my race. If my day, my week, or year is going badly, I need not ask if each negative episode or situation, whether it had racial overtones. I can be pretty sure of finding people who would be willing to talk with me and advise me about my next steps professionally. I can think over the many options, social, political, imaginative, or professional, without asking whether a person of my race would be accepted or allowed to do what I want to do. I can be late to a meeting without having the lateness reflect on my race. In fact, I once had a Black colleague tell me that Black people were always late, and it was called Black people time. Whenever a Black person was late, I would kind of repeat that in my head. I can choose public accommodation without fearing that people of my race cannot get in or will be mistreated in the places that I've chosen. I can be sure that if I need legal or medical help, my race will not work against me. I can arrange my activities so that I will never have to experience feelings of rejection owing to my race. If I have low credibility as a leader, I can be sure that my race is not the problem, it's me. I can easily find academic courses and institutions which give attention only to people of my race. I can choose blemish cover or bandages in flesh color and have them more or less match my skin. I can travel alone or with my spouse without expecting embarrassment or hostility in those who deal with us. I have no difficulty finding neighborhoods where people approve of my household. My children are given texts and classes which implicitly support our kind of family unit and do not turn them against my choice of domestic partnership. I will feel welcomed and normal in the usual walks of public life, institutional and social. Now, you guys, I don't share these with you to tell you that if you're white, you're a bad person. But I share these with you because if you're white, you need to understand the privileges that you have been given without even knowing that others do not get them. I'm not sharing this because I feel bullied. I share this because I personally care about being educated in equal rights. I want everyone, especially my students, to have rights like I listed above, given to them on a daily basis. I want a world where everyone feels like the harder I work, the more value I offer, the more opportunities I can afford. I want that American dream for all people, no matter what color they are and where they live. And here's the message to my fellow white educators. We do not need to protect our white status. We do not need to get defensive. The real work begins within each of us. If we can become aware of the differences between how people of color and white people are treated differently, we can take off the blinders and begin making a difference. not only for our students, but for the world. As a tutor, I've recently asked myself these questions. Have I been hired by a family because I'm white? Can I charge more because I'm white? Would I have the exact same business today if I wasn't white? Would someone ever ask to pay a lower rate because we're both white? Well, I can easily answer that. No. But that is not the case for the people that I've invited on my live today. So I have invited a panel with me today to discuss some of the important issues in education. And my goal is that you guys can listen and hear the things that they have to say with an open heart. Each one of us was kind of nervous and scared to be doing this live. Nobody came onto this and thought, yeah, let's do it. It was like a lot of thought and decision went into people's minds when I invited them to be here with me. And it was uncomfortable for me to open up this topic and the discussion. But we're all willing to get over that uncomfortableness so that we can spread a positive message. So I'm going to introduce you guys to each of the amazing people that have decided to join me today. So today we have Christina Alliance, and Christina is going to share who she is, where she's from, and what she tutors.
Hi, I'm Christina. I'm from New York, and I tutor middle and high school math.
Awesome. And we've got Audrey here.
I am Audrey Codner Gibson. I live in Baltimore, Maryland, and I also teach secondary math.
Ooh, we got lots of math people in the house. So we got C Math is Easy. Andrea. Oops, she's muted right now. Let's see if she can get it unmuted.
Hi, I'm Andrea Johnson. I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas. I tutor math and workforce math and so forth.
Awesome. And we've got Purity.
Hello, my name is Purity Stockton. I'm in North Carolina, and I tutor elementary reading.
And we just realized that Purity and Dana are both from the same place. So Dana Harris.
Dana Harris out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I tutor middle and high school math.
Awesome. Well, thanks you guys for stepping up and being willing to have these difficult conversations with us and just really be able to share your experiences. One of the things that, we're seeing a lot of right now is we're hearing a lot of chattering and chanting of Black Lives Matter, right? We're hearing that. And then we have some people that are chanting, all lives matter, right? And they're getting mad and they're getting angry. And I know as a teacher, I've heard so many teachers say, I don't see color, I just see children. And that seems like a very similar type of thing. And maybe it's a different thing, but to me, they seem very similar. How do those things make you guys feel?
Well, I can start.
Okay.
It's almost like it's a slight insult because that means you don't really see me. Like my color is part of me. I didn't choose it. I was born this way. But it's kind of like, yes, I want all my kids to have opportunities. I want all my kids to move forward. But at the same time, I need to, as you mentioned, I need to recognize those differences. So the differences is also the color of their skin. The differences is also their personality, because not every African American or Black American, it has the same personality, has the same upbringing, has the same economic background. So it's kind of like when you sit there and say, I don't see color, that means you don't see me.
Right.
You just think that I'm just like everybody else. But no, Audrey is a little bit different because Audrey likes to read. Audrey likes to play sports. Audrey likes to hang out with people. But at the same time, Audrey has a little spice to her, Audrey has some fun. But at the same time, it's like when you want to see me, I want you to see me, the full parts of me.
Yeah.
That for me, I just don't like when people say I don't see color, because you're going to see color, especially when you get upset. That's when people generally see certain things that they don't like or want to react to certain things when they get upset and they all of a sudden they take the mask off. So Yeah, I see it as an insult.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how everybody else feels.
Yeah, I'll go next. The first time I ever heard somebody say that I don't see color, I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I guess that's all right. But it felt kind of icky, and I didn't understand why. And I think it wasn't until I was able to, grow in self-awareness and then, and articulate that better, that it's exactly what Audrey was saying. It's like if you don't see color, then you don't see me. You don't see that child. As educators, when we say we don't see color, all we see is children, but their color, their culture, all of that goes into that child's experience growing up. That's just the same thing as when, as educators, we're talking about, being mindful of um, any issues that they're having. If a child comes in and they seem really cranky off the bat, being mindful because there maybe something is going on at home. So we're supposed to be mindful of those things. We're supposed to be culturally responsive based on their culture. If they're Asian or if they're Indian, there's certain things we're supposed to be careful of. We're supposed to pull those things together. Their color is also a part of their culture. It's a part of who they are, a part of their experience. So we should be aware of those things and what kind of experiences are those children having that impacts how they are in school, that impacts their ability to focus, that impacts their ability to learn, that is who they are. How can we be culturally responsive as educators based off of their skin color and their experiences growing up? Same thing as a person. If you say you don't see my color, that's nice and all, but does that mean that you really know me? How can you get to know me as a person? How can you develop a relationship with me if you don't see my color? Because my color is integral to my experience. It's
Mm-hmm.
not something that I can put away.
Right.
My personality is my personality, and that identifies me and separates me, makes me unique. My hair texture, but my color, this I can't take this off. I
Right.
can't change this. And so it's integral into my experiences and how I grew up and the person that I've become and who I'm continuing to be.
Mm-hmm.
It helps define who I am. So if you don't see that, do you really see me?
Right.
Do you really know me? Do you want to know me? Do you really want to know me?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think when I heard that question is, I don't see color. I first heard is like, I love all my kids in the classroom. But if a Black child goes into a school where there may be just one or two of them, there'll be a drastic difference. That teacher will notice that student, and that student will be truthfully in that classroom, and vice versa. And so when you're talking about, you know, I don't see color, I would say for a teacher, they're saying that I love all my kids. That's how I respond to that. But I agree that when you are dealing with a student, a Black student, that, they're going to be different cultures that you're going to have to know how to speak to them in order to them to respond and positively to you. And you have to know that background, their, I guess their innuendos, their mannerisms in order to properly, teach and tutor and respect who they are as a person and also their culture.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh, I had so many clashes. Imagine first year teaching white girl walks into this classroom and it's all African American students. It was culture shock to the nth degree. I had no idea what the differences were because nobody told me. And you know what would have really helped me, I think, being more successful is if somebody like did tell me what are some of the differences in cultures so that I wouldn't react in a negative way, which then destroyed relationships with my students because I had no understanding. My first year was a nightmare, guys.
Yeah, I was the same way. Mine was the reverse. I was the only African American math teacher, or actually the only Black teacher in the whole school, in one of my schools. So And trust me, and my very first bad experience, which I'm not going to hold, is when we had our first parent teacher conference, and I'm sitting there, brand new teacher, like, hey, how you doing? This is what I'm going to do in class. Here's my 5 minute spiel, and literally had a parent walk out and say, my kid's not going to learn from that nigger, and walks out the room.
Wow. Wow.
And I'm like, hey, this is gonna be a great year. Can't wait. And the kid was perfectly fine with me. They transferred him out of my classroom out of no reason. I knew what the reason was. And then all of a sudden, the kid was sneaking into my classroom. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I want to learn something. It's cool in this class. I don't like this other class. It's boring. Da, da, da. And I'm like, babe, you see that seat over there? That's always going to be your seat. Just tell them to switch them back into my class, and you got your spot. They made the change. The parent threw a fit. Principal was like, your child wants to be in her classroom.
Wow.
We can't handle it. And from that whole year, at the end of the year, all of a sudden the parent snuck into the building, and he was just like, I'm glad that my child likes you, and walks away. Doesn't apologize, but all right, cool. I'm here for your kid. I'm not here for your bigotry. I'm here for your kid.
Yeah.
Stop it. I'm stealing.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It is hard for us to be able to use. It was hard for me to share the statement that my black student had made to me, right? Saying like, you don't have to listen to no white teacher, when I'm telling them what the rules of the classroom are, and they're going home and telling them, and it was in regards to fighting, right? And I'm like, you cannot fight in the classroom. And the mom's like, look, if they say something bad to him, you pop them one, okay? Like, you don't listen to that white teacher. Like, this is the way we do things. And me not understanding why they do things the way they do them left me just horrified and scarred because of the comment. But you have to deal with those comments so much more than I have ever had to deal with comments like that. I've had a couple, right? And they scarred me. Big whoop. How many times have you guys heard comments like that?
18 years worth.
A lot.
Yeah, I was only a certified Black teacher at my school also, and saw how I was overlooked for certain things, certain activities, certain functions, to be a part of certain committees and so forth. I felt sometimes different when I was in a meeting, and my opinion probably felt like wasn't valued as much as some other ones that were more popular, that were there in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, which is unfair in the whole grand scheme of things. And it sounds like you guys have a lot of you. How many of you guys worked in the school system before? Every single one. All right. Any other racism that you guys specifically experienced while you were teaching in the school system?
I think mine was more so on behalf of parents or kids. In regards to staff, I've always been a person that when it's time to speak up, I'm going to speak up. You're going to know that I'm here. And if you don't know that I'm here in a staff meeting, you're going to know that I'm here because the kids are going to talk about me. But most recently, I think the biggest situation that I saw is, transitioning and teaching in Oakland, California for a few years, which is my hometown, compared to teaching in North Carolina several years before that. A lot of people, they view California and especially the Bay Area as just this wonderful place, and everybody loves everybody. And really, that was the Oakland that I grew up in, so to speak. I grew to realize that my grandparents shielded us from a lot of things, but specifically in the education arena, I felt like, I had a principal who called me in one time, and me and another black male teacher, and this is a black male principal, which the school that we were at, it was in a wealthy neighborhood, multi-million-dollar homes around the school. However, over half, I would say probably about 70% of the students were bused in from what we call the flatlands. And so they were kids of low socioeconomic status, things like that. But, the principal actually asked me, what can I do? Because I feel like there's a lot of white staff members that claim to support me uh, in public and in front of everyone. However, when it gets to behind the email, when it gets to union issues and things like that, they're, stabbing me in the back. And so, you know, I, for me, that was a situation that was I felt like it was difficult because I don't go to work to make friends.
Mm-hmm.
People thought that I was just strange because they're like, "Hey, we're going to happy hour, or we're doing this, we're doing that." Never mind. Because for me, I'm here for the kids. But I think specifically, um, in regards to kids, one of the big mistakes that I made as a young black teacher, and this is going to probably make you all look at me a little weird, but whatever. Started out thinking, okay, I know that the area that I'm teaching in, predominantly black and white. So I had this bright idea to actually go in and start my teaching career and tell kids, you know what, we're all gray in here. And I probably did it for about 3 years. And then I guess just becoming more self aware, becoming more reflective of my teaching practices and things like that, I realized that by doing that, what I was doing was actually taking away from every kid's cultural experience. And I think that the other thing that helped me realize that as well was that I was making connections with black kids. I was making connections with white kids. And I had some great conversations with kids. I think that there was one particular group of kids where I worked with some Native American students. And one young lady, when I saw her in the classroom, I thought this girl was black. Well, come to find out, she was her father was black, but her mother was Native American. And one day we were having a conversation. She said, "Mr. Harris, can I tell you something?" I said, "What's up? Talk to me." She said, "My parents called me a nigger lover," and I was like, "Whoa." She said not her parents. I'm sorry. She said my family calls me that. And she said, they called my mom that as well. And I was like, well, why? She said, well, because, my father's black and I date black guys as well. And I think that experience was really what opened up my eyes to where I was like, nah, we have to really see color. We have to, because I want every kid to feel like I want the black kids, I want the brown kids, I want the white kids, I want them all to feel like what they contribute to the classroom environment has value. And
Mm-hmm.
more importantly than that, I want them to all feel like they have value in this world, uh, period. And so for me, that was the thing that helped me. So I've seen it from different views, but I think the most extreme view of it was just the interaction between black and white staff members in North Carolina compared to the interaction between black and white staff members in California.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have also Joylita who is joining us right now. Hello, Joylita.
Mhm. Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great. What a cute background you have there. I love that. That is
Thank you.
adorable. All right. So tell us that you're just joining us, who you are, where you're from, and what you tutor, Joylita.
Okay, originally I am from Chicago, Illinois. I currently live in Miami, Florida. Um, I tutor reading. Um, and I've had some experiences in other places. I have a 35-year teaching experience. Um, my first prejudice experience was in a county called Gwinnett County in Georgia. Uh, I was the only Black teacher there. Um, some of the children, they asked me to talk about Black history. So I brought in, this was back in the early 80s. So I brought in a lot of magazines at that time, Jet magazines, Ebony. Um, And I used that. I circulated that around. I had, because I had plenty of issues. So I circulated that around, and it went fine. But then it was in a couple of weeks, there was, I had one parent, I had one student, and I had one coworker. This particular student, I think he was just trying to manipulate his father, though. He said that he would have my job because I couldn't teach that. And, but yet I was asked to teach, present Black history to the students. And he got his father to agree or to make the argument. So that was one experience in that same school setting, that particular school. I had it was a coworker teacher. She, for whatever reason, she was very, she went and told some things on me that really didn't happen. So that was my experience back in the early 80s. I've tutored in brick and mortar buildings. I've had one parent, he didn't want, he had a son and a daughter, and he didn't want his son or daughter to work with any of the Black tutors that were in the brick and mortar setting. And the math teacher was the only one. It was a math teacher. I was teaching reading, and the math teacher was the only one that could help his son pass the high school test. So I guess he thought about it for maybe a couple of months, and then he brought the son back. There was another brick and mortar tutoring place. I had the same situation. I had a student the parent that did not want their child being tutored by a Black person. So, I just accepted it, but it wasn't the companies themselves. It was some of the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff. There was a question I was asked, like, how many people are still teaching in the school system that are here now?
I'm still teaching. As a matter of fact, I'm even doing the summer program. I'm really trying to decide if I'm going to go back in the fall or retire. I haven't made up my mind yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I experienced a lot of baggage. It wasn't the same kind of baggage that you guys had. I mean, and the school system really broke me. I didn't feel like I was a very good teacher. And I almost had to prove to myself that I was a good teacher when I started tutoring. Did you guys bring any of that negative baggage from your teaching career into your tutoring career? Any negative thoughts, negative experiences that kind of lingered for you?
For me, that's what made me want to be a tutor. Because I just finished, we just finished, like seriously 2 hours ago was our last day. Like when I say just finished, I mean, yeah, the hair is down. We are like, yes, finally summer is here. I don't know why it took us this long. We've been doing professional development for the last 2 weeks. Yeah, like knock it off. But that's what's motivating me to become my own tutor, like to be my own tutoring business, to expand on like online courses, because it just seems like no matter what school, and I've taught in middle schools, high schools, I also taught in the state in detention centers. Believe it or not, working in the detention center for 13 months, that was like my favorite time. Like I loved those boys, like they were awesome. And I mean, it was just like, yeah, we're going to Miss Gibson's class. Yay! They were so excited to go into my classroom because I treated them with respect and just talking with them. And I know it was hard to make that association because I'm a woman and you're a man, or a young man, because the youngest kid that I had was 11 years old in detention, which is crazy. But all the stuff that was going on in the school systems, this is what's motivating me to be a tutor. Like, I want to take the kids, I want to tutor as many kids as I can possible. But sometimes it's almost like when people see that it's me, I have two different publications going on. I have one with my picture and one without my picture. And it seems like the ones without my picture is the ones that I'm getting a lot of leads.
Oh, wow.
Until we get our, first consultation, then where it's like, hey, okay, make sure you bring your stuff. And then we sit down, we talk, and next thing you know, like, oh, this was nice. We'll get back to you. And I'm like, all right, so what can we do to, and then all of a sudden it's just gone. Or they'll see my picture and it's like another African-American. They're like, oh yeah, okay, we can do this tutoring thing. And you're like, okay, you tell them your price and they're like, ooh, that's too much. That needs to back that down a little bit. Can we do it for 10? Girl, I got 18 years of teaching experience. I have a master's degree. This is what I do. And like, I mean, I'm more than willing to help out with a homework help here and there, but when you're basically downgrading to the point that I just feel like you really don't value me and we're supposed to be on the same team type of thing, that's how you feel. Yeah, that's very one-sided. Like,
Right.
no. So, but what's going on in the school systems? Like, I know that's what's drawing a lot of clients for us, but it's disheartening. It's very disheartening. And when you got kids graduating from high school that still can't read, my reading specialist that struggles with math, like just basic add, subtract, multiply, divide, can't do it without a calculator. And I'm like, they're sitting here talking about, yeah, I want to go and sell this. And I'm like, baby, we got to work with that math. Like, you're going to have to make change. You're going to have to do some things. And sometimes they don't see that. So everything that's going on in the system, that's what's motivating me to be a tutor, to basically take it on myself and see if I can reach as many kids as I can possible.
Yes.
But, that's
Yes.
what I'm doing.
I agree with Audra. You have value. I come with an engineering background. That's my bachelor's, and I have a master's in education. And so when I am presenting myself in a business, because I'm not just a tutor, I have a business line, I guess you can say, with books and so forth. But when we go out and present ourselves as a math expert, that's they do see us differently. They have seen the value that we're not just teachers, we're business owners also, and that there's things that we have to do and to be before you, provide, the software and the computers, or we're preparing for your child specifically, or we come to you being prepared. And a lot of times they miss out on that's what our price is bringing, is the expertise catering to your particular child. And you're bringing in, how do I look at this for the future for your child? What will they need? Because we've done that, and we have the experience to bring all that to the table. But as Audra said, can you back off? Can I pay $10, $20 an hour? But they don't understand what all comes with that, when we're trying to be, and when we are, and really we're business owners, bringing our expertise to the table.
Exactly. Which is going to be able to get results. And so
yes, we're stepping out.
Yeah.
We're stepping out saying we are doing this because we have brought results. And that's why I've started our tutoring. That's why we have started this business, because we have had results.
Exactly.
I think from my perspective, I've experienced the same thing, and I agree with both ladies before me. But one of the pieces of baggage that I have found myself bringing to the tutoring table a lot of times is working with clients, and at times we're doing homework help, and um, I had to train myself not to think out loud because there are a lot of times where I'll see a student has an assignment and it hasn't been strategically planned out or it hasn't been thought out properly. You can tell that the teacher has just given them something to say that they've given them something, or they've just given them just a ton of problems to work on, and it wasn't well thought out. And interestingly, the larger assignment was actually from a student that I was working with on the private sector. They were a private school student, and it was interesting because it was just rote um, memorization mathematics, and that shocked me. So I had to tell myself not to think out loud because many times I would say what I was thinking, and I just had to catch myself because for me it's like it bothers me to see a student just be given an assignment just to say they gave them homework or just to just giving them busy work. So that's very frustrating to me versus, I guess probably because it conflicts with my practice. I've never given students a lot of homework because I feel like if I give you a lot of homework and a kid goes home and does 20 to 25 problems incorrectly, then the next day in class, I'm going to have to deprogram and reprogram. So for me, that's one of those things that it also helped me become more reflective in my practice as well, though. But that's a piece of baggage that I found myself bringing to the table as a tutor.
The question was brought out because you guys had mentioned like you would get more leads without your picture being on your marketing. But then you'd get into the sales conversation and it felt like that you were being judged because of your color. Or you used your picture and you got people who would be interested in the tutoring, but they wouldn't want to pay what you're worth. What strategies have worked for you guys to be able to get clients? People are really looking for like, do you use your picture? Do you not use your picture? They're just kind of asking that in the different forums.
For me, I started having more confidence in being an expert. Um, you know, and I've experienced the same thing from both sides, but I just started having more confidence in being an expert. And so for me, it was just kind of like as I worked on my pitch or I worked on that conversation for the consultation, it went from being like this long 30, possibly 45-minute conversation to now it's probably about I schedule people for a 15-minute consultation, but at the same time I allow 30 minutes because sometimes 10 to 15 minutes is just their rant. And after I listen to it, I pretty much tell them what I can do to solve their problem. And I just after that I leave with confidence knowing that, you know what, if this person doesn't hire me, then they weren't part of my tribe. It
Yeah.
wasn't meant for them to hire me. And as I started gaining that confidence, I'll do consultations without being bothered. I put myself on everything. My website has me on it. My YouTube channel has me on it. My Instagram
Yes.
has me on it. And
Yes.
the thing that I was more self-conscious about was my beard. But now it's like even if I was to decide I wanted to cut my beard, it would kind of go against now what my marketing has become. So I think my suggestion to everyone is just the more time that you spend doing it, we just have to have confidence in the fact that we're an expert. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yes.
everybody's not going to like our product. It's kind of like with business out there. You've got Walmart, you've got Target, you've got Rite Aid, you've got Walgreens, you've got the different variations of drugstore. You got McDonald's and Burger King, and they always put them right across the street from each other. So,
Yes. Yes.
that's how we have to think about it over time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think the more that this becomes shared and talked about amongst people, I think things are going to begin to change over time, because I think there's just a lack of awareness in general. White people, when they just started hearing this term white privilege, they started getting really defensive about it. Like, what do you mean? I've worked hard for absolutely everything that I've done. I'm here because of I pulled myself up on my bootstraps. What are you talking about? White privilege, you know? And it's like, no, that's not what they're talking about. They're not saying you're not a hard worker. They're not saying you didn't earn where you're being at. They're saying that your life looks different because
or even
of the way you look.
Or even you'll hear the similarities where it's almost downplaying what you're experiencing because you're a person of color, where, you know, oh, I've experienced prejudice too, or I've experienced discrimination too, and, you know, I've been rejected too, and there's the I've done this too, you know, so what makes you different and whatever. And it's like, we're not saying, and that goes back to the all lives matter. We're not saying that all lives don't matter. We're not saying that you didn't experience prejudice for whatever situation, or you weren't discriminated against for whatever situation, or you weren't rejected for whatever situation. We're all human. So there is going to be some of that in every situation. What we are saying is, when you step out of that scenario, you know, if it's a job that you were prejudiced in, you know, because you're a woman over a man, if it was, you know, somebody rejected you, you know, or discriminated against you because, you know, they realized you were, you know, Jewish, you know, outside of that, when you leave whatever that scenario is, then you get to experience the benefits of not being, well, I don't say the benefits of not being Black or not being a person of color. That's kind of what it is. You get
You
to
have the
experience
opportunity
the
to
benefits.
escape it. You get the opportunity to escape it.
Yeah.
I leave the situation. I leave that prejudice behind. You guys don't have that
Right. So
opportunity to ever really escape it.
Right. So when we're talking about marketing and we're talking about, so now how do I do this? How do I build this business? Where can I market? Does it make sense to market in an affluent neighborhood? Will they hire me if they know that I'm Black? I can't escape the fact that I have to think about that we have to think about whether or not we should put our picture on a flyer. The
Right.
first time when I was, because the first time I started, I was coaching with Terry, and that was a conversation we had. I was like, should I put my picture on the flyer? And I know that you recommend that, but, you know, between you and me, I'm not so sure that that's wise because of my skin color. And then if I do, is there a specific place that I should market? Does it make sense to market in, you know, the deep South at this time, or should I market in, you know, a more diverse area like Atlanta versus, you know, Marietta, you know, Kennesaw area? Should I market in New York City versus, you know, someplace like upstate New York because of my skin color? You know, the first time I actually got a hit from someplace in Florida, it was from somebody who was white, and it was very country. He talked about his sons and he called them his boys. And it was just from New York. I'm like, uh-oh. And yes, that's me stereotyping, but I was nervous. And I
Yeah.
asked my husband, I was like, should I go through with this? Because I was nervous. I was afraid that my first consultation was actually going to be somebody mocking me and not really taking me seriously. I was very nervous to go on the call. I was like, did they see my picture? Did they recognize that I'm Black? No, I'm so serious. Did they see the photo? Okay, if they saw the photo, is this for real, or is this going to be should I set myself up to be prepared that this is actually going to be some sort of scam or attack, and I should be prepared? You know, like I was pleading the blood of Jesus and praying and everything before my first consultation, you know, because I was nervous. And the fact that we have to think about those things is the issue. And so yes, we do. I do go ahead and put my picture on it, and I place it. And like everyone said, I just, if you don't accept me, then you weren't my ideal client, and I keep it moving.
Did
You
they
know,
hire
I
you?
have my
Did this guy
experience.
in Florida hire you?
So they did. It was legit. Like it was
Like, I
it
had to
was
know the end of the
legit.
story.
Sorry. But it was a legit consultation. You know, his host, I mean, just the way his whole mannerisms, his whole stance, it was very country and very south. And I was so like, it was so awkward for me. But yes, they hired me, and I worked with their son for about a month before they found someone else that would do in person and at a
Mm,
lower rate. And that was, that was something that was important to them.
sure.
But, and but it just, like I said, just having to have those conversations and having to have those thoughts. And then what do you do after that? So for me personally, yes, I do put my picture up there. My picture's on everything, just as recommended. That you see, this, what you see is what you get. And if that means that it takes a little bit more time to get clients, then
Yeah,
it takes
more
a little bit
effort.
more time to get clients. Yeah, then that means I need to just continue and do all the other things, the online, build out for long term, build up my online presence. Um, and if you don't like what you see, then you're not my ideal client. And best wishes.
Mhm. Peace out. We had a great
Mhm.
question inside of Facebook. It was, how have you felt supported or not supported by this online community? How would you want the white tutors in this group to show up differently so we can be more supportive?
I'm hoping people are going to stay. Hopefully, they're not going to see this and they're like, oh, that's how they feel. Then they're giving us our
Right.
deuces. And then, because I'm kind of curious, like how many people are actually, when they see this, they're going to be like, all right, this is maybe the group that I want to stay, or maybe the group that I need to go. I definitely noticed a huge influx of tutors ever since the whole COVID-19 kind of hit. It just seemed like almost every 5 minutes, welcome new unit, welcome new members. And I loved how some people will send a message saying, I need students. Well, no crap. We all need students. And that's why we here. Duh.
Yeah.
By the way, they get
But-
deleted and removed. Like, 'cause
right. And
it
I
is the
mean,
very
I
first
appreciate
rule.
totally appreciate when you guys get on top of that, because I'm like, what are you doing? But it just seems like when you do have, especially technology, and I'm involved in some other groups, like you guys get on it. Like literally, I'll put a post up and I will, it's not like, oh, 5 people saw it and you don't get a response. You'll still get some kind of response. Like, hey, have you tried this one? Okay, what platform you guys are using? Even though it may be a comment that people have talked about before, but still people are like, hey, why don't you try this one? Why don't you try Fonz? Why don't you try this? Because I do this and this. And it's so like instant. And I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some people, you'll say something and it'll take like a week. Oh yeah, here's a response. No, seriously, if this is going to be your group, I want to see you. I want to see who's in charge of this group. I want everybody to have a voice. And that's why I kind of feel like everyone could say what they want to say, but
Yeah.
think sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes people just got to think about what they want to do. But
Yeah.
I feel
And yesterday I had 2 posts that people weren't thinking. Like their fingers were doing the thinking for them. Like they were just typing, pushing enter. You guys should have seen how many flagged comments I was getting. I'm like, okay, I want the conversation to continue, but not everybody is ready for the conversation. And so I have to turn this particular thread off. So know that if I ever do that, you guys, I am not trying to shut anybody up, but I will not tolerate inside of this group and inside of this community anybody who can't speak nicely to another person. Telling somebody to grow a pair is not appropriate, okay? Telling somebody like these kinds of things, I know it's not a swear, but it doesn't matter. It's an insult. Insults are not appropriate. So if you are watching this and you were kicked out of the group, you probably insulted somebody in some sort of way and weren't thinking before you pushed enter. I don't have time, you guys, to really think through, okay? Like, okay, this person, well, they didn't really mean it. They've been so nice all these other times. Like, I don't have time to weigh it. Right? Like, rule number 1 is we will respect race, ethnicity. We will not, we don't talk about like politics because it doesn't really have anything to do with our international group, right? We don't talk about religion because it doesn't deal with our group. But race does deal with our group, okay? We're all different colors inside of this group. It does affect us. But if I'm going to say something negative about it versus be open-minded and hear what other people have to say about it, there's a difference, right? There's a difference. Once I turn through being, you know, if people are being hateful, it's out. You're gone. You have no second chances. None. Zero. I don't have the patience and I don't have the time. I care about everybody who comes into this group, and I will treat everybody the way that I would want to be treated.
So you're summing that up with, we just should is just loving one another and treating one another as we would want to be treated. And that's the whole scope of what we need to do. But at this time, the reason why we're saying we're pinpointing about Black lives is because there has been an injustice and there is an issue. You have brought us here to speak and show others that there is a need to see that there's something different that's going on with the Black people, the Black race, and we're trying to address it and find positive ways to interact so that all of us can live in unity and in love with one another. And but politics is not going to solve that. It's loving one another as a body of people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important that we love and respect.
Yes.
We are empathetic. We allow people to talk. We don't try to talk over other people. We don't try to shut people off when they're being respectful and approaching something from like a pure motive situation. I want to purely help, right? You can tell when people start throwing out all this negative talk. It is not going very good. It doesn't have a good start, right? This is the ultimate support group, you guys. And so, yes, I expect us to be supportive. That means that we lift each other up. We don't tear each other down.
No.
That is a big, huge piece of this. And I, as a tutor, I know that a lot of people, and as a business coach, a lot of people are like, Joanne, you don't have to take this on. And in my mind, at first, I was like, yeah, I don't. But then I thought, Joanne, how many tutors are you coaching that are Black or another color of you? If you are not addressing this and hearing the issues that people have, how can you help them? Right? So now when I talk to people, I have a better understanding, you guys. When people are like, I'm scared to put my picture up, I know what they mean. If they are, if they're Black, if they're Asian, and they're like, I'm scared to put my picture up, I can understand it from a much different perspective. It's not because you think you're ugly. It's because you are nervous that your skin color is going to be the reason why someone wouldn't choose you. This comes from a whole different, like having this conversation has definitely opened my eyes to how I can be of service better. And I love, Dana, that you're like, no, this is who I am and I can own it and I am going to step into me. We've got, it's all about that confidence. It is so huge. And when you guys show up with confidence, no matter what color you are, it makes a big difference. And in 3 weeks, I'm going to be releasing a course that is all about confidence and increasing your confidence so that you can sell yourself better and get more students. And I think this is really prevalent to both to all colors, all ethnicities, all races, all genders, everything. I think that being able to stand your own, know what you're worth, know what you charge, and be willing to just step up there and tell people, and then be willing to say no to those people who will not pay what you're worth, be okay with saying goodbye and waiting for that next client that will. You guys are incredible. I want to thank you so much for coming here, for sharing your heart. I know we have only like just cracked the like tip of the iceberg here. I know there's so much more. We could talk about this for a really long time. And even when I was putting this together today, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I have 10 hours of content here. of things that we could talk about, right? Because there is so much to still unearth. It's like an onion where we're just peeling off the layers, right? We have just taken off that little tiny thin thing on the top. That's about it. But I think we're going to continue to learn and grow together as a community and be able to serve and help each other more. And this is the one thing that I love about being able to connect, is that we all have the ability to refer each other to each other, right? And so this is part of the community. I love all of you guys, and I am so glad that you are all here. Thank you guys in the chat who have joined us. Yes, they are already asking for another panel on this to be able to discuss more about it. But I absolutely love every single one of you guys. And it comes from like this true deep place of appreciation and respect. So thank you for doing what you guys do for our students, for our community as tutors, and for just being the amazing people that you are. Thanks, you guys, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.